Greetings, and thanks for tuning in to this lecture on actualist and fundamental public justification in political liberalism. My name is Thomas Besch. Central to what John Rawls calls political liberalism is an idea of public reason giving or public justification. However, it continues to be contested exactly how political liberalism understands this idea and how it should be understood. Recent discussions, especially in the North American context, often conceptualize public justification by following a perspective that Rawls foregrounds in his account of a well-ordered society at the second stage of his theory of justice, justice as fairness. Accordingly, the theme of public justification or public reason is often addressed with a focus on the stability of an idealized social order or relevant assurance problems, while public justification is construed in highly idealizing terms and is applying a given, allegedly reasonable conception of justice to political matters. And I'll say more about this later. However, a rather different perspective on the theme seems to be at work in Rawls's doctrine of general reflective equilibrium. So one thing that I want to do today is to explore this less prominent but arguably more fundamental perspective on public justification. And in doing so, my focus will only be on first-generation Rawls-type political liberalism. That is, I will mainly focus on Rawls's views, but I'll also touch on the views of first-generation political liberals like Stephen Macedo and especially Charles Lamore. On the reading that I will suggest, public justification is actualist and fundamental. It is actualist insofar as it fully enfranchises or gives a full justificatory say to the actual reasonable citizens of an actual Western liberal regime. And it is fundamental in the sense that political liberalism recognizes conceptions of political justice as reasonable in the first place only if these conceptions meet the test of equal coherent acceptability by actual reasonable citizens. And this makes public justification fundamental in political liberalism's order of justification. Now, these two features invite a long-standing objection to political liberalism. It seems that political liberalism defines the reasonableness of a conception of justice as a matter of its acceptability from the perspective of citizens that it defines as reasonable. But of course, the question is, what about other people? In other words, since actualist and fundamental public justification fully enfranchises only reasonable citizens, it seems objectionably exclusionary. The second thing that I want to do today then is to take a slightly closer look at this exclusion objection, as I'll call it. I want to suggest that this objection is more precarious in its own right than critics of political liberalism often realize. And this will bring out some hopefully interesting questions about the nature of equal respect and discursive inclusion in political liberalism. However, let me also say that this lecture is not going to be an introduction to Rawls's political philosophy or to Rawls-type political liberalism. For my purposes, I will need to assume that you have at least some basic familiarity with these things. Next, this lecture will talk you through a main line of argument that is more fully developed in the primary lecture reading. That's the paper on actualist and fundamental public justification and political liberalism. Many of the things I'll touch on today are discussed in more detail there and in the sources referred to in that paper. So if you have any question or want to know more, that paper might be a good starting point. I'll deal with my topic in two main steps. I will first lay out a reading of actualist and fundamental public justification and political liberalism. Then in the second step, I'll turn to the exclusion objection and the closely related theme of discursive equality.